Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of Drummer Daily. My name's Daniel, and I'm so happy you are here. Hey, before I get started, and I am really excited about what we're going to talk about today. Got a lot of meat in this podcast meal. Can you say that? Oh, I don't know. I just did. There's a lot going on in this episode today. But before I get there, I just want to say thank you to the few of you that already have reached out based on my last episode where I asked about, if you might be interested in either doing some online one-on-one learning with me about where we go over your playing and other pieces of becoming a pro drummer, or coming out here to Nashville and doing a studio experience deal with me. I've gotten some emails from some of you telling me that you are interested in that, so that I appreciate that feedback. And if you're hearing this episode and you didn't hear that episode, you're like, what in the world are you talking about, Daniel? You can go back and listen to episode 186. You can either go back through the feed of this podcast and find that, or you can go to danielhadaway.com/186 and check that out. And I'll appreciate it. You can send me an email, let me know what you think. But hey, today I want to talk to you about I was trying to think of a clever title or a direct kind of title to describe what we're going to talk about today. And I think what I want to kind of give you insight into is a few different ways, a few specific ways that you can very quickly get really clear insight into the kinds of things you need to be doing you personally need to be doing to get hired by other people who are looking to hire drummers, whether that's a producer or an artist, all the people we talk about all the time on this podcast. How can you gain some really quick perspective? Now, my whole life, I've tried to be really considerate of other people. I always am. I think maybe as a flaw, maybe it comes down to me worrying about what other people think. And I'm working through some of that. I don't care so much, There's always the situations where it's like you're on vacation, in a city, and you're like, look like a slob all day, every day, because you're just, taking it easy. And, I've at least started to accept the fact that, like, wait a minute, I'm in a city where no one here knows me. They're never going to see me again in my life. What does it matter if I look like a crazy person? So that's the negative side of worrying about what people think. But I also do genuinely always try to make sure that the other person in a situation that I'm in is happy or is getting what they need or what they want. I'm a people pleaser. And again, that can go down the negative path a lot. But I think I have a natural knack for, in situations as a drummer, I have a natural knack for kind of understanding what would make the artist who hired me or the producer who hired me, what would make them happy, or how I can serve them in a way that will make them happy. And even though I'm like that, I understand that many people are not. And you probably are have a different set of qualities than I do. Maybe you are like me and you're a people pleaser and you really almost are preoccupied sometimes with trying to give other people what they want. But whether you have that quality or you don't, I want to give you some insight into some things that I've done that even if you do have that knack for trying to perceive what others want and you try to give that to them, there's more above and beyond. It can give you a really clear picture, a really easy way to walk in someone else's shoes. And so I'm going to give you a few of those ways now. And I'm going to kind of walk through 3 ways, starting with the most kind of extreme, most aggressive, most costly in both the literal sense and a figurative sense. And then we're going to work our way through things that aren't quite so risky or costly. But I want to tell you something, and I'll get there more down the road, but the easiest way to get into someone else's shoes, to put yourself in someone else's shoes, is to literally just put yourself in their shoes. Literally, not in your mind, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, but actually do the thing that they are doing. Put yourself in their situation, literally. So the first thing the most impactful thing that ever happened to me as far as understanding what artists want from me was when I got put in positions where I needed to hire or pick or select or partner with other musicians for something that I was leading. So a short way of saying that was I hired a band for something that I was in charge of, for my own project. And if you want a quick insight into what it's like, what it feels like to have to hire someone else to play music for you on your project, and you don't want to guess or imagine what it's like, you actually want to feel it, go hire a band. Literally go hire a band. I've done projects that I've produced a few projects where I had to decide who I wanted to get to play like guitar and bass and those kinds of things. I think I've hired a drummer once or twice before. There's a few things I haven't played drums on that I've worked on. And that's really that would be like the best thing, is if you could actually find a way to need to hire a drummer as well. That'd be awesome. So you might be saying, hey, what do you mean? I'm just a drummer. What do you mean hire a band? Well, let's say you just literally, put your money where your mouth is and say, hey, I want decide you're going to have a practice or a session, or maybe you put on your own little show at a club and you just want to play cover songs. And you just do it for fun, but you decide, hey, I am going to pay, even if it's not the whole band, if you have a couple of friends, but you need a good guitar player, you need a good bass player, and you don't know anybody, decide, hey, I'm going to set aside $50 or $25 or whatever it is, and I'm going to pay a musician to come play my show. And as silly as it sounds, just by doing that, or maybe as simple as it sounds, you will instantly start to feel all those things that anyone else is going to feel when they are thinking about hiring you. Man, is this guy going to be good? He can recommend it, but I'm not sure if he actually is up to the task of doing what I want to do. Once you have them there and you have hired someone, once you're interacting with them, but you're the one who's in charge, how are those other musicians to interact with? Do they feel like they're being kind of pushy or acting like a hot shot or whatever it is? You can get so much insight into that just by doing it. The idea is that you just take a directorial role in a musical project and basically task yourself with being the leader of that project. Now, let's say you have no money at all to do this. You just don't have spare money to do it. Well, what you can do is something like, reach out to a guitar player that's really great on social media, or a bass player or someone else, and just say, hey, I want to you can actually just be completely clear and honest. Say, hey, I'm trying to learn more about what it's like being a band leader. And so I would love to have you collaborate with me on a track, and you could do some little home recording, something like that, or remote recording with each other. But let them know you're collaborating. You could even put it in a position where you're going to trade. You're going to say, hey, I think it'd be really cool if we both got to lead on one track. So let's do one track where I'm kind of the boss, the producer, so to speak, and then we'll do another track where you're the producer, and we both get the experience. And you can kind of trade for experience with other musicians who need the same kind of experience you do as well. So that's one way. Another way is a little bit less complicated or doesn't require quite so much action, is to just take drum lessons. And that can be, at a local music shop. You know what drum lessons are. I don't need to describe those to you, but you might think that some people think they're too good for drum lessons, and you'll be surprised. The professional musicians that I know, many of the best still have a teacher that is teaching them. I've used the analogy of a coach before, because I named myself the drum coach, but even the best NBA players, basketball players, football players, all sports have coaches. Even though the athletes maybe even are able to, or most of the time are able to run circles around the coaches, they still see the value in getting coaching or leadership from someone else who maybe can see things from an outside perspective that they can't see. So you might be saying, well, how is that going to help me as a drummer getting lessons as far as learning what producers want? Well, remember that when you're taking drum lessons, you most likely are paying for those drum lessons, which means that you, again, are in a different way hiring a drummer. You're hiring someone who plays drums to do work for you. Now, the work they're doing is a little different, but remember that you are still putting yourself in a situation where you are spending actual money on a musician's services, and you will get a lot of perspective and understand what you're looking for, what other people are looking for from you, by you putting yourself in the position to look for some of those things from someone else. Again, that's also, it might help you if you're looking to make an income giving lessons. Maybe taking lessons is a good way to give you insight into what maybe your customers might be looking for down the road from you. And the last thing on this list, the third way that you can put yourself in the shoes of someone else, and there's another point behind this in all three of these ideas that I want to get to as well. But the third way is pay for some kind of other training, even if it's not in-person lessons. Pay for, I call it coaching, like what I do. Or there's those membership sites online that you can get a membership to and do some drum webinar or drum seminar type things, or drum clinics or drum lessons that are recorded, those kinds of things. There's a couple of websites that do that as well. Do that, and again, you're still spending real money on a musician's services, whether it's directly or indirectly. But again, you're going to start to feel and understand a lot of those things that people who hire musicians feel and understand. But I want to be clear with all three of these things. I think you might sense a theme here. If you look back, you will on what I've said. And that is that all of these ideas for how you can do this involve spending money. They involve paying something with real money, not just time. I mean, there's some less expensive or free options I listed out. But all that to say, I don't believe in like karma or anything like that. But I do. Listen, guys. I know a lot of you guys who listen to this podcast are Christians. I'm a Christian too, so I'm not saying anything like, don't send me angry emails like I've gotten before. I'm not promoting anything weird, but I do believe that there's some kind of cosmic sense of justice down the road, whether it happens while you're alive or later on. I'm not going to get into all that, but I do believe that there is value in investing in yourself, and I do believe that the general idea of what I believe is everybody gets what's coming to them eventually. And I don't believe that it's right for any of us to expect others to invest in us as musicians if we are not willing to prove that we are willing to invest in ourselves as musicians. So what I mean is, put your money where your mouth is. If you think someone else should ever pay you to play drums, then you need to see what it's like to actually either pay someone else to play drums so you understand it, or at least if you want to say, I am worth investing in as a drummer, telling someone else that, you need to prove that you are worth investing in as a drummer and do it yourself. You need to invest in yourself as a drummer. Now, of course, the disclaimer is, yes, I have things for sale that fall into some of those categories, but I don't want you to perceive this as me trying to manipulate you or convince you that you need to be spending money with me to advance this part of your career. I just think that there's value in spending money somewhere along the way on bettering yourself as a musician. So find a resource that you believe will work for you. Try it out. If it doesn't work, find something else, but continue to invest in yourself as a musician. Even if it's something simple, it's not selfish to spend $10 on a drum head or $8 on a pair of drumsticks every once in a while. If that's what it is, if you say, you know what, I'm going to do some self-care. It's kind of like going and getting a nice haircut. If you're feeling kind of down and out, you get a nice haircut, and you feel better. At least I do. Maybe I'm just really vain. But anyway, do something, invest in yourself as a musician. You can prove to others that you're worth investing in, but also you'll gain so much perspective on what it's like to pay for other musicians' services. So I hope this helps you out. I hope this gives you some ideas. I can't wait to talk to you again really soon on Drummer Daily, and hopefully that will be in a couple of days, depending on when you're listening to this. But bye for now. Thanks for joining me.